In February 2013, a surveillance video from a hotel elevator began spreading across the internet. The footage showed a young woman behaving in a way that confused investigators and viewers around the world. She pressed multiple buttons, stepped in and out of the elevator, and appeared to speak to someone who was not visible. Moments later, she walked out of the frame. That woman was Elisa Lam. She had been staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Days after the elevator footage was recorded, Elisa Lam disappeared. What happened inside that hotel would become one of the most debated mysteries ever captured on surveillance cameras. This is the story of the Elisa Lam elevator footage. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old university student from Vancouver, Canada. She was known by friends and family as thoughtful, curious, and deeply interested in writing and travel. Elisa maintained an active online presence where she shared personal reflections and experiences through a public blog. Her posts often described her thoughts about life, identity, and personal challenges. In early 2013, Elisa decided to take a solo trip through California. The journey was meant to be both a vacation and a personal adventure before returning to university. She documented parts of the trip online, sharing photographs and short reflections along the way. Friends later recalled that traveling alone was something Elisa enjoyed and had done before. During the trip, she visited several cities across the West Coast. Her final planned stop was Los Angeles. In late January 2013, Elisa arrived in downtown Los Angeles and checked in to the Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel was a historic building located on South Main Street in the city's downtown district. Originally opened in the 1920s, the hotel had once served business travelers and tourists. Over the decades, however, the surrounding neighborhood experienced significant economic decline. By the early 2000s, the area around the hotel had developed a reputation for crime and instability. Despite that reputation, the hotel continued operating as a budget accommodation for travelers. Some floors were used for long-term residents, while other floors operated as short-stay hotel rooms. When Elisa first arrived, she was assigned to a shared hostel-style room. Reports later indicated that her roommates found her some behavior unusual. Hotel staff eventually moved Elisa to a private room. During the first days of her stay, Elisa remained in regular contact with her family. She called her parents frequently and continued updating her blog. According to her family, Elisa was expected to check out of the hotel and continue her travels in early February. But as the planned checkout date approached, communication with her family suddenly stopped. Her parents became concerned when they could no longer reach her by phone. Repeated calls went unanswered. Days passed without any contact. For Elisa Lam's family, the silence was deeply alarming. They reported her missing to authorities soon after realizing she had vanished. What investigators would soon uncover inside the Cecil Hotel would raise more questions than answers. And it would all begin with a piece of surveillance footage recorded inside a hotel elevator. During the final days of Elisa Lam's stay at the Cecil Hotel, her routine appeared to follow a normal pattern. Hotel staff later recalled seeing her moving through the building during the day. She often visited nearby shops and restaurants around downtown Los Angeles. Employees remembered her as polite and quiet during those interactions. Inside the hotel, Elisa spent much of her time alone. Guests and staff occasionally noticed her walking through the hallways or using the elevator. At the time, nothing about her presence raised immediate concern. However, investigators later reconstructed a more detailed timeline of her final known movements. One of the most important pieces of evidence would come from the hotel's security cameras. The cameras monitored several areas of the building, including the elevators. According to records later reviewed by investigators, Elisa was last seen on camera on the night of February 1, 2013. The footage placed her inside one of the hotel elevators. At that moment, there were no reports of any disturbance or emergency inside the building. The elevator recording would later become one of the most widely viewed pieces of surveillance footage connected to a missing person case. Before the video surfaced publicly, however, Elisa's disappearance had already begun raising concern. Her parents in Vancouver had expected to hear from her regularly during the trip. When the phone calls suddenly stopped, they became increasingly worried. Days passed without any contact from Elisa. Her parents attempted to reach her through calls and messages. None of those attempts were answered. Realizing something was wrong, they contacted authorities. The Los Angeles Police Department opened a missing person investigation. Officers began reviewing hotel records and speaking with employees. Search efforts soon focused on the Cecil Hotel and the surrounding neighborhood. Investigators checked hallways, stairwells, and public areas of the building. Police also began reviewing available security camera footage. At the time, they were trying to determine the last confirmed moment Elisa Lam had been seen. What they eventually discovered on one of those cameras would soon attract international attention. The footage from inside the elevator would become the most discussed element of the entire case. But when investigators first watched the video, the meaning of what they were seeing was far from clear. The key moment in Elisa Lam's case centers on a short surveillance recording taken inside a hotel elevator. The footage was captured by a fixed security camera positioned in the upper corner of the elevator's ceiling. The black and white video shows Elisa Lam entering the elevator alone. 21-year-old Asian woman, long black hair, slim build, wearing a casual red hoodie and dark shorts. She steps toward the control panel and presses several elevator buttons. After pressing the buttons, she moves toward the back corner of the elevator. Instead of waiting normally, she leans forward and looks into the hallway outside. Her movements appear cautious, as if she is checking whether someone is nearby. She then quickly steps out of the elevator and looks both directions down the hallway. Moments later, she re-enters the elevator and stands close to the wall beside the door. At several points, she presses more buttons on the control panel. The elevator doors remain open longer than expected. Elisa again steps partially outside the elevator and looks into the hallway. Her body language appears uncertain and restless. She then moves both hands in front of her in a series of unusual gestures. The gestures appear as if she is speaking to someone outside the camera's view. However, no other person appears in the elevator or in the hallway during the footage. After several seconds, Elisa steps out of the elevator once more. She walks toward the hallway and disappears from the camera's frame. The elevator doors finally close shortly afterward. For investigators reviewing the footage, the sequence of events raised immediate questions. Why had Elisa pressed so many buttons on the elevator panel? Why did the elevator doors remain open for so long without moving? And who, if anyone, had Elisa been interacting with in the hallway? At the time the video was recorded, no one inside the hotel reported witnessing a confrontation. No alarms or disturbances were reported by staff or guests. For several days, the elevator footage remained only part of the internal police investigation. But the video would soon be released to the public. And once people around the world began watching it, the footage sparked widespread speculation. Many viewers believed the video suggested something mysterious had happened inside the hotel. Others focused on the unusual behavior seen in the recording. The elevator footage would quickly become one of the most analyzed surveillance videos ever released in a missing person investigation. For several days after Elisa Lam was reported missing, investigators focused their search on the Cecil Hotel. Police officers and hotel staff began examining the building floor by floor. Rooms, hallways, stairwells, and storage areas were checked carefully. Search teams also inspected nearby streets and surrounding buildings in downtown Los Angeles. During the early stages of the investigation, there were few clear leads. Hotel guests were interviewed to determine whether anyone had seen Elisa after the elevator footage. Some guests recalled seeing her earlier in the week. However, none could confirm seeing her after the night the elevator video was recorded. Police continued reviewing security footage from different areas of the hotel. At the same time, Elisa's family traveled from Canada to Los Angeles. They assisted investigators and spoke publicly about the search. Her parents distributed missing person flyers across the neighborhood. The case began receiving media attention, both locally and internationally. Weeks passed without any confirmed sightings. Search efforts inside the hotel intensified. Police brought in trained dogs to assist in locating any possible clues. The dogs searched several parts of the building, including hallways and rooftop access areas. However, the search produced no immediate results. Meanwhile, guests staying at the hotel began reporting unusual issues with the building's water supply. Some reported low water pressure in their rooms. Others complained that the water had an unusual taste and color. These complaints prompted hotel maintenance workers to inspect the rooftop water tanks. The Cecil Hotel used several large water storage tanks located on the roof of the building. When one of the tanks was opened for inspection, workers made a disturbing discovery. Inside the tank, they found the body of a young woman. Authorities soon confirmed the identity. The body inside the water tank was Elisa Lam. The discovery shocked investigators and raised a new set of questions about how she ended up there. After Elisa Lam's body was discovered in the rooftop water tank, investigators began a detailed examination of the circumstances surrounding her death. The location of the tank immediately raised questions about how she could have reached the roof of the Cecil Hotel. Access to the roof was not normally available to hotel guests. According to hotel staff, the roof doors were secured and equipped with alarms that would alert employees if they were opened. Investigators examined whether those alarms had been triggered during the period Elisa was missing. Reports later indicated that no alarm activity had been recorded. This raised the possibility that Elisa may have reached the roof through another route. Investigators considered the building's external fire escapes and maintenance stairwells. These areas could potentially provide alternate access points to the rooftop. Detectives also studied the design of the water tanks themselves. The tanks were large cylindrical containers elevated on a concrete platform. Each tank had a heavy metal lid that normally remained closed. Questions quickly emerged about whether the lid had been open or closed when Elisa entered the tank. Investigators also examined whether someone else could have placed her inside. The possibility of foul play was considered during the investigation. However, evidence supporting that possibility was not immediately clear. Security footage from other areas of the hotel was reviewed carefully. Investigators searched for any sign that Elisa had been accompanied by another person. No footage showed anyone following her toward the roof. Attention soon returned to the elevator video that had already drawn public attention. Investigators analyzed the footage frame by frame. They attempted to understand the sequence of Elisa's movements inside the elevator. Some observers believed her behavior suggested she might have been frightened. Others believed she might have been hiding from someone outside the camera's view. Police also considered medical explanations that might explain the unusual behavior. Investigators reviewed Elisa's personal history and medical background. This included information about her mental health treatment and medication. These details became part of the official investigation as authorities attempted to understand the final hours of her life. Despite the extensive investigation, many aspects of the case remained difficult to explain. The discovery of Elisa Lam inside the water tank solved one question, but it also introduced many new ones that investigators continued trying to answer. As the investigation continued, authorities began examining every piece of evidence connected to Elisa Lam's final days. The elevator footage remained one of the most important pieces of visual evidence in the case. Investigators studied the recording repeatedly to understand the sequence of Elisa's movements. Some viewers believed the video suggested she was hiding from someone outside the elevator. Others believed she appeared confused or disoriented. The footage quickly began circulating across the internet. Millions of people watched the video and formed their own interpretations. Online forums and social media discussions spread a wide range of theories. Some people speculated that another person might have been present just outside the camera's frame. Others suggested the possibility of a malfunctioning elevator. Another group of viewers believed the footage indicated a possible paranormal explanation. Investigators, however, focused on verifiable evidence rather than speculation. Medical examiners conducted a full autopsy after Elisa's body was recovered. The autopsy report found no evidence of physical trauma, suggesting an assault. Toxicology testing was also performed to determine whether drugs or alcohol were present. The results showed that Elisa had been taking prescribed medication. These medications had been prescribed to manage a diagnosed mental health condition. Investigators considered whether inconsistent use of medication could have influenced her behavior. Medical experts noted that certain conditions can sometimes cause confusion or unusual actions. However, the exact circumstances of Elisa's final movements inside the hotel remained unclear. Another detail investigators examined involved the elevator itself. Some observers noticed that the elevator doors remained open longer than expected in the video. Technicians later explained that the elevator may have been placed into a temporary hold mode. When this mode is activated, the doors remain open until the hold button is released. This explanation helped clarify part of the unusual timing seen in the footage. Even with these explanations, many viewers continued to debate the meaning of the video. The combination of surveillance footage, the hotel setting, and the unusual discovery created an enduring mystery. The death of Elisa Lam quickly became one of the most widely discussed cases connected to the Cecil Hotel. The combination of the elevator footage and the unusual location where her body was found attracted global attention. News outlets around the world reported on the story. The surveillance video continued spreading across television broadcasts and online platforms. Millions of viewers watched the footage and attempted to interpret what they were seeing. For many people, the unanswered questions created an enduring sense of mystery. Investigators, however, focused on the official findings of the case. The Los Angeles County coroner conducted a full review of the available evidence. After completing the examination, the coroner released an official determination. Elisa Lam's death was ruled an accidental drowning. The report indicated that there was no evidence of assault or intentional harm by another person. Investigators concluded that there was no clear indication of criminal activity. The report also referenced Elisa's medical history and prescribed medications. Authorities noted that inconsistent medication use may have contributed to her behavior. This possibility was considered when evaluating the unusual movements seen in the elevator footage. Despite the official conclusion, public debate about the case continued. Many viewers remained puzzled by the sequence of events captured on camera. Questions persisted about how Elisa reached the rooftop water tanks. Others focused on the strange timing of the elevator doors during the recording. The Cecil Hotel itself had a long and complicated history that fueled further speculation. Over the years, the building had been associated with numerous incidents and tragedies. Because of that history, the location itself became part of the public narrative surrounding the case. However, investigators repeatedly emphasized the importance of relying on evidence rather than speculation. The available evidence did not support the involvement of another person. For Elisa Lam's family, the case represented a deeply painful loss. Her story became a reminder of how quickly unanswered questions can capture worldwide attention. More than a decade later, the elevator footage remains one of the most recognized surveillance clips in true crime history. The case continues to be discussed not only for the mystery it created, but also for the importance of careful investigation.